Thank you, Clara. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning. Welcome to TADC 2020 Online, the Tunku Abdullah Debate Challenge with a twist. The TADC held its inaugural event in 2018 and was born originally out of an idea to bring together the desire of both Direct English Malaysia and St. John's International School to take private schools and public schools to a common platform to uplift the awareness and expertise in public debating in the English language at the secondary school level in Malaysia. In 2018, we had 20 teams from mostly international and some public schools in Malaysia. And in 2019, we had a very encouraging 34 teams with many more public schools participating. So it's not surprising that our expectations for 2020 was to have an even bigger participation. But the COVID-19 pandemic made it impractical to organize it in the same way, and hence, in 2020, it is the online TADC, as I said, with a twist. We had decided to name the debate challenge after my late father, His Highness Prince Abdullah or Tunku Abdullah Ibni Almarhum Tuanku Abdul Rahman, the son of Malaysia's first king, or Yang di-Pertuan Agong. He was a keen orator in his time and an adept debater himself, putting those skills to good use when he was in politics for many years and a member of parliament for 10 years, as well as a government backbench whip back in the 1960s. But his experience actually began many years ago before that. He had his first trial by fire after his 18th birthday in 1943, when the Japanese war colonialists put him and 14 other Malayans and Indonesian young men on a troop ship to Japan, where they were sent to different universities to learn the Japanese language and the Japanese way of life. He had to endure many hardships and tribulations. However, he was a survivor and he was able to adapt. When the atom bombs were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which resulted in the Japanese surrender and the occupation by US forces, the Americans needed interpreters, and Tunku Abdullah negotiated his first job himself, and for himself and other Malaysians who were by then fluent in Japanese, and of course already fluent in Malay and English, because English was the language used in Malayan schools like the Malay College and missionary schools like St. John's Institution. However, these amateur interpreters were not paid cash, but they obviously received perks such as food and cigarettes. After some months, he decided to negotiate his ride home to Malaysia, or rather his boat home, by taking several ships, first from Kobe to Hong Kong, and then from Hong Kong, yet another ship to Manila, and then another ship to Shanghai, and eventually, after 5 weeks, arriving in Singapore, where he again had to use his powers of persuasion on a taxi driver to drive him all the way from Singapore to Seremban without any upfront payment, because anyway, he had no more money left with him. He resumed his studies first in Raffles College in Singapore, and after that at Glasgow University in Scotland, where he studied public administration, after which he returned to Malaya to join the Malay Administrative Service. While in government service, he served several states, eventually rising up to the upper levels of the Malaysian civil service, having honed his acumen in administration, and after he left government service, he had his decade-long stint in politics. He moved from state to state, resulting in me attending actually 8 different schools, starting with St. Paul's Institution in Seremban. After his stint in politics, he also made his mark in bringing together the youth of Malaysia with the founding of MAYC, or the Malaysian Association of Youth Clubs, and later the Malaysian Youth Council. And on the world platform, he later established the Asian Youth Council and the World Assembly of Youth. And under him, MAYC built Wisma Belia. Well, it wasn't a very tall building, but it was a landmark building in Kuala Lumpur back in the 1970s. He then entered the corporate world, founding the family company, the Malawa Group, which went on to establish businesses in construction and property development, international imports and exports, insurance and financial services, advertising and public relations, travel and tourism, as well as education and training. He established joint ventures with companies from the UK, Australia, Indonesia, Japan, Switzerland, and China. And indeed, he got on very well with people of all kinds of nationalities. He brought his inborn and acquired skills of reasoning and argument to all the areas he was involved in public administration, in politics, and in business negotiations. He was also very adept in making speeches and often did so off the cuff, not just in English and Malay, but also in Japanese. So I'm sure he'll be very gratified and happy and proud to know that we have established the TADC and that we have dedicated this debate challenge to his memory. So just a few words about debating. The well-known 18th century French essayist Joseph Joubert said, "It's better to debate a question without settling it than settle a question without debating it." And this is the whole essence of debating, to be able to put your points to the floor or on the table, and to be able to accept that the question may not be settled to your satisfaction. Of course, you may have read that in some parliaments overseas, they also take to throwing chairs across the aisle or shouting profanities, which is certainly not the way to make your point. Now, knowing how to debate is a skill that helps one develop critical thinking skills and to question the evidence behind a particular contention or assertion. The art of debate is where one has to use reasoning skills to prove your point. Therefore, it is one's sense of reasoning that will be judged and not whether a particular point or argument is more popular or less popular. So we are much indebted to the acceptances by the speakers and panel of judges and experts consisting of people from a variety of backgrounds. And not least, I thank the organizing committee, namely Mr. Suresh Das, CEO, and Dr. Inderjit Singh, head of school, and the management and teachers and staff of St. John's International School, and Mr. Philip Lim, CEO of Malawa Learning Resources or Direct English Malaysia, for so wholeheartedly putting this unique online debate together. I hope it will be a successful format. And if so, who knows? This may become the way of the future, to bring together teams that are unable to travel, but yet able to pit their debating skills against each other. We may one day have teams from Malaysia debating with teams, say, from the UK or South Africa and Japan, without having to travel, without the attendant costs and time. So thank you, and do enjoy the morning with the 2020 online Tunku Abdullah Debate Challenge. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.